I do, contrary to what TJ said, hold them to what they accomplished last year. So if what they did last year was make the college football playoff and make the college football national championship game, then I expect them to be worse because I don't expect them to be back in the national championship game. In my mind, that's going from like a scale of 9 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10 for all the reasons that Cole just listed. I completely agree. I think you lost so much along the defensive line. That was a huge reason why they crushed people in the playoff defensively, because you could rush 3 if you wanted to. And the secondary this coming year will probably be better than what it was last year, which is scary to think about. But when you can get pressure with 3 or 4 and you don't have to send anybody else, my God, does that make defense easy for you? So it's just going to be a little different this year. I think also offensively, there will be that temptation to use Darian Menso more as a passer, as a rusher, than they obviously were able to do with Carson Beck, 2 vastly different athletes. And then you have a stable running game that you know is coming back, changes along the offensive line. It's going to still be a really good team. It's just going to be incrementally, quote, worse than the team that went to the freaking national title last year.
I do like how Cole split the baby. I've talked about this a lot, not to belabor a point. I do think it's very much 2 seasons, right? There's the regular season, and then there's what happens in the playoff. If you're judging them by where they ultimately reached, which that I'm totally fine with Tom doing that. I won't fight him off air, mostly because it'd be like a 15-hour trip to even see each other.
Come to Albany and say it to my face.
But I would split that baby. I'd say I think they're better regular season, worse post. Like I think they go 11-1. I think they either lose to Notre Dame or drop a game they shouldn't. And then I don't think they make it to the national championship game, mostly because I think it's just about surviving and it takes some luck to do it. And so are you going to get lucky 2 years in a row? It would not shock me if this team went to the Natty again at all. Like surprise, maybe, but I think this team has enough talent to make it to the national championship. The problem is I think 6 other teams have enough talent to make it to the national championship, and you're basically just picking out of a deck of cards which one survives the 3 games in the playoffs. So yeah, I think they'll be better in positions. I think they'll be worse in positions. Like I do like Damon Wilson. I do like Ahmad Moten. I do like Armando Blunt. They've got a lot of talent on that defensive line. You just need to see it before you're ready to crown them. Like last year, you knew Bain and Mesidor were going to be animals. So how's the offensive line gel together? I've talked about how I like the schedule that they've got opens up pretty easily. They've got a lot of time to gel because they don't play a real opponent until they go to Clemson. So that's helpful, right? You don't start out with an LSU week 1 or, any team that can even get close to you from a talent perspective. They're like a 3-score favorite on the road in Palo Alto to open up the year on a Friday night. Like they're going to mow through their first month. So all that considered, like I would have them as, probably same. That's such a cop-out, cheap answer. But
it is
a little bit better. I think they'll be a little better in the regular season. I think they'll take games more seriously. I do think that the big question to me is the places that they got worse, quote unquote. It's funny because they'll still be like a top 15 defensive line.
Right. That's
top 15 offensive line. They're just not going to be like, we think they're not going to be top 5. How much better did they get at the quarterback position? How much better did they get at the wide receiver position? How much better are they with like linebacker depth? Do those things balance? Do they counteract each other, right? Like what is the motivation of losing in that national championship game and really having a chance to win it? How does that impact this team? So yeah, I do think that's the biggest question is do the improvements counterbalance enough? Do you need as much from the defensive line if Mintz is putting up 40 points a game? Well, no. The answer is no. They might be better overall if the offense does take that step. If the offense doesn't click quite as much and you do notice that deficiency on the defensive line, again, still being a top 15 unit, that's where I think it could be kind of put into question. Here's a second one for you guys. Better or worse, presented by Prize Picks. We're going to talk about them in a little bit too when we get to our last segment. The Tennessee Volunteers. I don't think, not to call out my guy Eric in here, I know there's a lot of Vols fans that watch us. I don't think they beat a Power 4 team with a winning record last year.
They didn't.
So they finished 7-5. Not a great year. It could have, dashed some Vandy dreams at the end of the year. Got absolutely mowed down by them. Quarterback is still a question. Will it be McIntyre or Brandon? Better or worse? And here's the caveat for this one. Cole Thompson. You can't say same on this one.
I know.
Get away with it on the last one. You can't say same. Better or worse for Tennessee?
I go worse only because of it's an unknown at quarterback. And when it's an unknown at quarterback, I mean, we genuinely have no idea what Faison Brandon or what George McIntyre is. We knew what Joey Aguilar could be. Like again, he was new to the offense. He showed up very late throughout the process. And by the way, he ended up leading the SEC in passing yards. Like he ended up being really good. So I'm not faulting Faison Brandon and George McIntyre that they can't learn the offensive identity of what Josh Heupel wants immediately. But you do have to ask yourself, what's the experience? You've never been in a situation going forward on fourth down. You've never been in a situation being down by 10 and I gotta have a score in the fourth quarter. It just comes with the territory. And then you have questions on the defensive line. The Chaz Coleman news is is souring. Yes, your defense I think is going to be better this season.
I'll get right back to the clip from the Power 2, the live show on College Football Addiction's YouTube channel in just a moment, but I do want to give some love to our friends over at Prize Picks. All new users there get $50 instantly when they set a $5 lineup using our code HMA. And I've got some good news for you. We picked some of these ACC games over here. We've been doing a lot of World Cup. We've been doing the NBA Finals, MLB, all that. It was nice to be able to pick some actual college football games that are not too far away. I know it's a month and a half. Go check that out on the live show of the Power 2 on College Football Addiction. Listen, if you're a fan of any of these teams, we're having a competition. The ACC and SEC channels have over 5,000 subscribers. The Big 10 sitting around 3,000. The Big 12 getting close to 4,000. I'd like to see if the Big 10, the nation's leading conference, can take the lead on that, or if the ACC and SEC can extend their lead, if the Big 12's recent surge can continue. Make sure you are subscribed here while you're watching as well. All right, now back to the clip.
But at the same time, Jim Knowles' defense aren't known for taking a year to fully adapt and get acclimated to an identity before they really hit the ground running. I love that there is good wide receiver play. I think Braylon Staley and Mike Matthews are two of the better wide receivers in the SEC. And I think Deshaun Bishop is one of the most slept on running backs in college football because he rushed for over 1,000 yards and nobody talks about him the way we do Jaden Bond, the way that we do Ahmad Hardy and Keywan Lacey. And he's good. He's a good player, but like, it's so much unknown with the offensive line, the defensive pressures, your inability to pressure quarterbacks last season, and then your quarterback play in general. So it's a lot easier just to go ahead and bank on this is a retooling year out in Knoxville. It won't be terrible, but it won't be great. I will say worse.
I will say worse, and I think this is Josh Heupel's last year at Tennessee.
Oh, that's too much.
There we go.
That's too much. You went too far.
You didn't. Oh, well, hold on a second. You didn't beat a team with a winning record last year.
Yes.
Period. You lost your bowl game to a Big Ten team, greatest conference in the history of college. This coming year, like dead serious. Tell me where you get 6 wins this year.
I was looking at the schedule. So yeah, I mean, I think they win all 3 out of conference. I think they do win at Georgia Tech, and then I think they beat Arkansas and Vandy, and split with Auburn and Kentucky.
Georgia Tech will be difficult. I think that game being a road game is still a difficult game.
I still don't believe it. I not at least with Alberto Mendoza.
I understand that, but still, I give Georgia Tech respect that they're at least going to make it difficult for Tennessee.
Sure.
Home against Texas, home against Auburn, which we've already said the goalish Byron Brown factor of we don't know and coin flip games for Auburn this year, plausible. Home against Alabama. Alabama's going to be a damn good team this year. At South Carolina, does Lenora Sellers have his act together at this point? That's another one of those games where they're like, anything could happen. Kentucky at home. We've talked about it. Minchie, Will Stein. Anything could happen potentially with the Wildcats this year. Not saying they're going to win the league or anything like that. At Texas A&M. Don't love that for Tennessee. Home against LSU. At that point in the season, are Lane Kiffin and company just priming for the playoff? And are they the monster that we all think they can be? I'm going to lean towards feeling that the answer is yes. And then at Vanderbilt, at the end of the year, does Curtis have his act together as a true freshman? And is Vanderbilt a problem in Nashville? Like, there are a lot of games on this schedule where it's like coin flip. And that's not good for Josh Heupel. And there's already the unrest in Knoxville surrounding Josh Heupel. So I could see anywhere from 4 to 6 losses this year. And if it's 8-4, yeah, Heupel's probably safe. Because those 4 losses in my mind are Texas, Alabama, Texas A&M, and LSU. Games that people expect you to lose. But if you dip to 7-5, 6-6, I shudder to say 5-7, yeah, Heupel's out.
I think just some of the backstory in talking with some Tennessee folks, and I don't know if this will change Tom's perspective a little bit, but I'd like to get Cole's take on it too. I don't feel like Tennessee has played conservatively in the NIL game until this year, and they didn't go crazy in the portal like I think they should have invested. I think the money has been there. They brought in over $300 million in revenue, and I think people are signing up to say, we want to give money, and Danny White, their athletic director, has been kind of like playing the good cop, bad cop, like, well, the rules are this, kind of some of the same stuff Florida State has going on. They opened up the absolute floodgates when it came to NIL and basketball, and I think they spent over $18 million in the portal. I think that alone, unless the wheels come completely off and they go 4-8 or something, I think, or maybe even 5-7, like Tom mentioned, I think that alone is because their investments there. They went and got Indiana's strength coach this year. They went and got Jim Knowles from Penn State. I think that is the saving grace for Josh Heupel. Again, unless the wheels come completely off, I think the administration and the athletic department know that they didn't invest the right way in football this offseason, and he's relatively safe because of that. And I think they are going to load up with just an insane amount of money next year's portal, this year's class. And so that is my perspective just in talking with Tennessee folks that will keep him pretty safe through this year. Now, there is a situation where the wheels come completely off and they lose some of these games we're talking about. You can't lose to a 3-9 South Carolina. You can't go out and get blown out by every first-year head coach you play when you got Arkansas, Kentucky, and Auburn on the schedule. Those need to be wins. But I think Josh is I think he's closer to safe. And I'll actually finish my thought real quick on, I'm going to take better. I'm going to say phase on. I think that they do win 8 games. I think they lose the 4 that Tom said, maybe pull an upset somewhere. I know Auburn's going to be tough. I know that South Carolina has a lot of playmakers. I know that Vandy's on the road. Vandy's on the road in Nashville. I know that those are not necessarily just like sure things. I do like Tennessee's talent a little bit more than I like most of the teams they play outside of those big 4. I'm going to take them to go 8-4, either winning all the games you're supposed to or upsetting somebody. Alabama in Neyland because of the environment, LSU because they're all pissed at Lane and hate him more than the devil, whatever the situation, and then lose one of the ones you're not supposed to. So I'll lean slightly better, but with like a 55% confidence. I think most likely they go 7-5, but I told Cole he couldn't go same, so I'm not going same either.
Look, for me, again, I understand that this could be a retooling year and that a lot of people would be upset with Heupel taking a massive step back. I get that. But can I remind everybody, just once upon a time in this bay called 1998, you had a coach by the name of Philip Fulmer, and you've been trying to get back to that vicinity ever since,
We have to talk about 98.
Yeah, we gotta bring it up from time to time. Usually that's the way it has to go. Let me remind everybody who has come on through the building in Knoxville before Josh Heupel got there. You had Lane Kiffin, who hightailed it on out of there as quickly as he possibly could. Derek Dooley in his stupid orange pants. Butch Jones in his Champions of Life BS. And then you throw in Jeremy Pruitt, who got you in so much trouble with the sanctions with the NCAA that you thought that your program was going to be up in flames and you could barely make a hire. Then you go out and Josh Heupel. And Josh Heupel has not been able to bring you back to Philip Fulmer-esque level. But let me remind you, he's the only coach since Philip Fulmer to have multiple double-digit win seasons. He's the first coach since Philip Fulmer to have you playing in a postseason game. Now, whether or not you got your asses kicked in the postseason game, you still made the postseason that year. Oh, and you're the only coach in over a decade to beat freaking Bama with Nick Saban at the helm. He did that. So it's like, even with a down year, I still do not see a scenario to where Tennessee and Danny White are going to be like, yeah, not good enough, bro. Now, one more season. If we were to say this in 2027, by all means, Tom hits the nail on the head. He is going to be shown the door. But all the goodwill that you've been able to get to, you could go 4-8 this year, and you're going to be brought back in 2027 simply because of all the goodwill that you have had for Josh Heupel and what he has accomplished in his tenure in Knoxville that no other coach before since Philip Fulmer has been able to see.
I also think, let me give Josh the benefit of the doubt here too. I know that we have big questions on the quarterback. Who's it going to be? What's it going to be? What he's done with quarterbacks in his time there, like we did not have massive expectations for Aguilar, and he came in and was one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. Whether it's McIntyre, whether it's Brandon, I do have a lot of faith in a Heupel-led quarterback and a Heupel-led system and offense. That's blind trust because I don't know anything about these two quarterbacks. I know they're athletic. I know they're talented. I know they're highly rated for a reason, 4 and 5 stars. I get that. If I'm betting on a coach to develop a quarterback and do a good job with them, Josh Heupel is at the top of that list. So I do have some confidence there too. They're going to be one of the more fascinating teams to watch. They've got big matchups. Alabama coming in, Lane Kiffin coming in, going to A&M. Hey, we were just talking about A&M. Maybe they are fool's gold. Maybe last year's schedule was just really easy. Maybe that is a win they can pick up. I'm not betting on it right now. I would take A&M, but I don't know. We always kind of prognosticate before a season starts, and then the games get played, as the kids say. So we will see what happens there. On to our last one, Cole. Bring us home. Presented by Prize Picks in whatever you're picking.
Are we going to finally give credit where credit's due to Josh Heupel working with quarterbacks out in Tennessee?
Oh,
because if I do
under earlier, didn't I?
Because if I do think that that's something that is getting overlooked right now, keep in mind that you brought in Joey Aguilar late in the process last year. He had 15 practices in the summer, and he led the SEC in passing yards. Joe Milton was a top 3 quarterback in the SEC in passing yards. You had Hendon Hooker, who was a top 3 quarterback in passing yards. Nico Iamaleava was the outlier, and he was to be the hot shot. So what if you have a guy like Faison Brandon who ends up hitting the ground running? Because if here's the other part, boys, you got to remind yourself that wide receivers get better after the first season in the offense underneath Josh Heupel. Look at guys like Chris Brazell. Look at guys like Jalen Hyatt. Look at Brew McCoy and the other one that I'm blanking off the top of my head. The plays for the Cleveland Browns. I know that I'm forgetting him, but like Cedric Tillman. Every single one of them gets better. Well, Braylon Staley is going to be a year older, which means he's going to be more fluid in the offense, and you're 2 years older with Mike Matthews. So George McIntyre and Faison Brandon both, I do believe, can be exceptional quarterbacks because of who you have calling the shots, and the wide receivers are going to be that much more sufficient because we know how much the growth comes from year 1 to year 2 in a Heupel offense. I think we got to give them a little bit more credit where credit's due on that standpoint.
They are really one of the more intriguing teams to watch. That will do it for our episode of The Power 2 here on College Football Addiction. TJ Pittenger, Cole Thompson, Tom Hannafin. Tune in tomorrow for our World Cup coverage. We will see you guys on the next one.